Taito Yokota has been a music supervisor and composer at Nintendo since 2004 when he joined to work on Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Though the game was a mediocre hit, his work on other games for the company would garner phenomenal reviews and intense revenue, including The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, one of my personal favorite video games. The 2000 game was originally scored by composer Koji Kondo, but Yokota worked as the music supervisor on the 3DS release of the game in 2015 that sought to update the sound of the original score and add to it for the 3D update. The game's plot is simple enough. The moon is falling, and you, playing as Link, are given 3 days before the end of the world to fix it. The goddess of time is willing to send you back to the beginning of that period as necessary until you can prevent the collision. Throughout those 3 days, you interact with the townfolk and get involved in their lives more personally while figuring out puzzles. The music of the game is iconic, as is the game itself. The music of the game followed behind the concept idea, taking from Chinese and Japanese traditions. Much of the soundtrack is themes based on characters, locations, and scenes, being given a musical identity based around the different Chinese opera variants. The original score incorporated new traditional instruments of Chinese origin and emulated the sound of others by use of samples. The score also allowed modern sensibilities so as not to remove it so far from society, taking some jazz and electronic influences. The main theme of the game is the Song of Healing, a darker theme played predominantly on piano that sets the vibe for the entire game's darker Buddhist themes of exploration to both the lighter and darker sides of a person. The first main example of the music's functionality, and the main one of the game, is to serve as introducing new settings. Each new place in the town has its own theme, and they make sure to give a crossfade for each track to make the theme more distinctly noticeable. Each building has its own theme, the fairy fountain, and most of all is the clock town that changes each day that progresses and resets whenever you restart the clock. This theme is also present in almost all outdoor locations within the game. The instrumentation of each day changes, and the theme is given these darker string chords by the final day and a faster pace that conveys the anxiety of the clock ticking down. The music of the game's interactivity is heavily dependent on location as such, switching in new environments rather than upon interaction with items. Battles have less of a presence here, so they are not as highlighted, but they are given their place within the game. Much of the music of this game is designed around atmospheric feel, further cementing us in the unfamiliar setting. The game takes place after the return to Link's childhood in the end of Ocarina of Time, where Skull Kid leads him down a path and turns him into a Deku Scrub.
You finally woke up. I'm not with the fairy.
It just looks like, oh god, you smell.
Yeah, God.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I got a gamey taint.
In this parallel world of Termina, it's suggested that things are darker here. The music tonality lends itself to that, while also keeping some whimsy and acknowledgement that these people, the NPCs, still live lives outside of the game's confines that aren't miserable and centered around the moon's falling. There's this balance created as such, which is likely why the themes of the characters differ some from those of the world. The character themes all feel a little more lighthearted in comparison to the setting themes, which even have their own attachment to characters, such as the mayor's meeting also serving as the mayor's theme. These themes still have some darker tones considering the world around them, but they're given this vibe of complexity, that there's more to the characters than we are seeing. This helps with world building significantly, the main strive of the soundtrack. There is also a function of the music and achievements, such as the theme played every time a new item is acquired. These themes play upon interaction with characters or the environments of the characters, which, while technically a setting theme, are still attached to the characters. The third of the biggest interactive moments within the score comes as the result of the Ocarina theme, a game concept introduced in the previous installments of the series, especially in Ocarina of Time, the predecessor to Majora's Mask. Playing specific musical themes in the game would present different effects. Playing the Song of Healing heals tormented souls and turns them into masks. Epona's song summons Link's horse of the same name, and the most important within the game is the Song of Time, resetting the clock to the beginning of the 3-day period.
I'm
back in the fucking building again!
This is perhaps the most interactive the music is within the game, allowing Link to play music that directly affects the gameplay by allowing him to reset, travel, and heal among other things. Every time the music is played, a small screen follows to show the movement of the piece on a score.
Okay, so I was reviewing my video clips in post and found some mini boss battles that sort of demonstrate how music functions with that. Also, I couldn't be bothered to record more voiceover, so here's AI for shits and giggles. There's this small theme that plays when you are near an enemy, played with a low bass and some form of marimba. It usually only activates within the game when around mini bosses that you have to defeat. It triggers if you are near the enemy and typically fades after they are either killed or left. This is a fairly popular function in most video game audio cues and was an established mainstay function of the Legend of Zelda series. Most recently in my mind is this function in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is far more prevalent, though not a mojito work. Usually this process involves layering the regular score of the game with the enemy music cross-fading in and out depending on how close you are to the enemy. This differs from boss themes, which are usually more intense and exclusive to the boss you are facing, or at least the type of boss it is that you are facing. The functionality of these is different, with the boss battles lacking the same cross-fading because they occur in enclosed spaces, trapping you with the enemy and forcing the player to battle them through a way unlike the fading scores of smaller enemies. The sound does, however, change in the direction that you are facing away from, towards the boss. Typically this effect is generated using dynamic soundscapes created in advanced audio engines that pans the music based on player position and movement.
While the game's music is not as interactive as perhaps in other games, even within the series, its music does a phenomenal job at creating an atmosphere different to those in the other games and propelling the story further. I find the instrumentation of the game to be more quaint, almost childlike, in a way that propels this idea of Link being treated more like a child than ever in Ocarina of Time, and learning new ways of viewing the world in this body, allowing him to grow more as a person and accept all parts of himself, good and bad. In a way that aligns with most Eastern Buddhist traditions. The interactivity of the Ocarina songs is phenomenal, and it helps build the gameplay onto the already amazing setting that the score created. I wouldn't improve anything in the score simply because this game is nearly perfect. Despite being made in a year and following up Ocarina of Time, one of the most critically acclaimed games to date, it stood out as its own creation and was a spectacular follow-up. Of course, this wouldn't have been possible without the iconic score that would come back throughout the franchise. Hell, many of the themes within the game have become mainstays, not just within the series, but even in the video game world as a whole.
Way back in the 1980s, secret government employees.
Dude, I couldn't focus on what you were saying with that thing on your face. I was sick of staring at it.